Welcome to the Shipping Podcast, where I meet interesting maritime professionals sharing their passion for the shipping industry and their everyday job. I am your host. My name is Nir Gartzman. Hello, Shipping Podcast lovers. Welcome to episode 94, which was recorded at the Opening Oceans Conference in Copenhagen in May 2nd. Opening Oceans is a new initiative from Nor Shipping to help us in the maritime industry realize the potential of the ocean space. I was invited to speak to their keynote speakers, and you have listened to this pearl of string with Lasse, Chris, Matt. Those are the guys that has been the guests in the previous episodes. But in addition to the keynote speakers, there was a think tank. Invited to the Nordic ThinkTank session, where startup opportunities in the maritime industry, was Nir Gartzman invited. He's a high-tech and clean-tech and maritime guy. So you see, he ticks all the boxes of my interest. So here is Nir Gartzman for you. He is heading an innovation hub in Israel, and I think you will be interested in listening to what he has got to say. Welcome to the Shipping Podcast.
Thank you, Lena.
Could you please introduce yourself?
Name is Nir Gartzman. I'm the co-founder of the theDOCK Innovation Hub, the first innovation hub focusing on maritime innovation in Israel, the startup nation, as we branded ourselves. Sometimes brag too much about it, but there is something special, I think, around the technology, know-how, and creativity. And we bring together the Israeli innovative ecosystem together with the challenges of the maritime sector, together with funding and develop and help startup flourish in the domain. About me personally, I was a Navy officer in Israeli Navy Academy alumni. I was chief engineer of Israeli missile frigate. Later on, superintendent in the maritime sector, also lived 7 months in Shanghai in a renovation project of a cargo vessel. And in the last decade, I work in the high-tech sectors in Israel, in different companies, engineering and sales management roles. But my passion was to take the technology and the innovative solution that I met in other sector back to the maritime sector. And today, together with my partner, Hanan Karmeli, is also a well-known figure in the Israeli high-tech ecosystem. We are bringing together these two beautiful worlds, the maritime sector and the Israeli high-tech scene.
So how did you first come in contact with the maritime industry?
About 10 years ago, when I was a superintendent and also live in Shanghai and travel Japan and all around the world, I met a very interesting and fascinating global industry, while very conservative and very different in the way it's doing business and share data and digital level of adoption, comparing to the other high-tech industry that I met in Israel. And follow it, my aspiration to deal with innovation and high-tech. I found myself in other sectors for 10 years. And I feel that now it's the right time to harness a high-tech background towards the maritime sector. This is the right time globally that big players understand that we are on the verge of disruption. Nobody have a crystal ball, but we assume at the theDOCK that the next 5 years will bring change in the business paradigm of the shipping industry, the ship itself, the operation of ship and ports, and it will be technologically driven change. And we are here to accelerate this process to a better, more sustainable, transparent maritime world, and to connect the Israeli technology excellence know-how to deliver it.
Have you been successful?
We are yet to prove the promise, but I can say that after 1 year and a half of operation, we already set up a working platform, bring together to the same place innovators, entrepreneurs willing to work towards this domain. Investors, funding. We invest seed investment in the selected startups to our program. And corporate partners, leading ones. There was a very nice PR in the last few months. We are partners with Maersk and also with Lloyd's Register. And there is another few to come in the coming months. And actually, we already published a few months ago call for application according to the challenges that we hear from our business partners. We, after a very dense year of presenting challenges all around the Israeli ecosystem, get 47 different initiatives approach us. We shortlisted them to 15 that we feel confident after technical and human due diligence of the founders to present and to consult with our business partners. And I'm here to report action that we are going to start our first acceleration wave this month with the 5 selected companies.
How do you select the companies?
Our claim to fame for the investor and for the innovators in Israel that we will select companies to our program only if they will get traction and interest from the corporate partners. So actually, we are not taking them through acceleration process and that in the end looking for the customers, but consult prior to the screening selection with the global partners. And the one that's not suitable for, or most interesting for us, but most interesting for the corporates, for Maersk and Lloyd's Register for now, and for a few others that we talk with, these are the ones that we selected to invest them because we believe that it's not to be the best startup, the best technology, or the best idea, but great market access, to be agile and to listen to the market needs. So we bring them in very early stage to meet the relevant people in the corporates. And this is something that I will add also that we learned from the trial and error of a lot of other innovation hubs in Israel that we consult with during the last year before we started theDOCK. Actually, we gone and met around 20 different innovation hubs in Israel from other sector, automotive, fintech, to learn from their platform and take the best practices and lend it to the maritime sector.
So what are the biggest differences you see between the maritime industry and other sectors?
I think that the challenges are also the opportunities because still there is many of the international players that haven't adopted the mindset change of to embrace open innovation and share data and share outside their organization the challenges in order to promote better ideas and better technologies to solve their problem. The idea of investing in a startup that can sell his products also to your competitors, it's a newly approach also in other sector. But this is also the opportunity because we are one of the first in the world to offer it to the one that already started to think that way. And we also pitch to the one that haven't done this mindset change yet. And we have a lot of examples to show them on successful processes like this done in other sectors, also in traditional sector till the last decade, like the automotive sector or the industrial sector, etc.
How do you see the future for shipping?
I believe that in 10 years from now, there will be a huge players, both in manufacturing and software, and maybe even shipping and shippers that none of us know today. It happens in the automotive sector, it's happening in the fintech sector, it will happen in the maritime sector. The question is, who will be fast enough to understand and to embrace these technologies? I think that the reason is not because the first maritime company will be the one that recognize it, but it will follow by customer requirements, because the customers, also the shippers, also the business today are expected to much more transparent more accessible service from the sector as they get from other sectors. And when Amazon and Alibaba and JD are forcing digitalization on the whole the process, they will not accept a blind spot in the port and maritime industry. And the one who adopt it will win to collaborate with them, and the others will just stay outside of this game. And this is the unique point of time when the big players in the maritime sector have the opportunity to leverage all their worldwide connection with importer-exporters and give them add value through technology, through data, through services that will help them to remain relevant also in the coming years.
Where do you see the capital coming from? From outside or from?
This is a very good question that we are thinking how to crack it also. The capital is hard to find around the big maritime players following a decade of low margins. But this is also an opportunity in the consolidation processes that there is players that can invest, and we already saw big purchases by Wärtsilä, by Maersk of technology company. And I believe that after the 2-3 first venture capital-backed technology company from the domain that will be purchased or adopted widely in the industry, also the traditional venture capital and private equity firm also will see the value. And the one that will be the early adopters of those technologies will be the one also to gain the most revenues. So we actually also pitched to the Israeli VC ecosystem around this story and around this opportunity. And we believe that we find a lot of attention. Again, we had to prove the promise, but we believe that we could find funding vehicles outside the maritime sector in order to develop companies that eventually will develop to great companies in the domain.
But you didn't say Amazon or Alibaba.
It's a big question if digital platform, data analytics company dealing with the maritime domain will be purchased by the shipping giants or by Amazon and JD, for example. If I were in the shipping sector, in the top executive role, I would recommend to be the early adopters and to purchase them before Amazon will do it. But of course, this is a tough competition that make all of us better. And from our place as innovation hub that promotes startup, competition on the good idea, it's a good news.
I agree. How do we become more visible, the shipping industry? What can we do for more people to know about us?
I think that I can't attest to what's happening in the world. I can attest on the Israeli high-tech sector. People are not familiar enough with the challenges and the beauty of this sector. And people are sometimes amazed of the capacity of the world trade that move through ocean-going, sea-going vessels. Actually, it's the backbone of the international trade, allow people to manufacture and to do the things in large scale wherever they are best off and to ship it all around the world in pretty reasonable prices. This was one of the major contributors for the last 2 decades economical development all around the world. And we need to tell this story more, because to attract good entrepreneurs to work in the domain, it's have to get in the media, not only of the maritime sector media, but also in the general media, in the big newspapers and big magazines, economical magazines all around the world. And the way he's doing it is to share even the story of the containers invention 50 years ago, and a lot of interesting story around the world, and to do things like you do, Lena. I'm sure you have a lot of listeners outside the industry that through your platform.
Thank you. Well, this is my soapbox, because if this industry has got industry magazine or newspapers that is behind paywall, because that's their business model, they haven't changed their business models. You have to pay like 3,000 euro for an annual subscription. And who does that if you're not already in the industry?
Of course.
Passionate about what you want to know. But they are not publishing things for the outside people to read on. And I have spoken to journalists working for big newspapers or for news companies, and they say, well, we don't write anything about a house that is not on fire either. So why should we write something about the maritime industry when nothing is happening, business is working, and that is when we are happy. And also taking into account that nowadays it's easy to be in control of your own communication. So you can start a podcast, you can have your own social media, your own newsletter. You don't have to wait to be asked to dance. You can do it yourself nowadays, and that is part of my mission here, to get people to understand that. But I have interviewed now almost 100 people and asked them, what do you think we can do to become more visible? And usually I get the answer, I don't know. Which to me, it says to me that we need to do something, as you say. We need to do something, and I think we need to do that unified. Go together and do this and show this is why we are so passionate and why we like it so much.
It's a great opportunity. We are from our corner of the world, from our geographical patch, do it exactly what you said. Free content for as many as possible communities, high-tech communities all around Israel, around the dock activity. And I'm sure that maybe around your platform, maybe the Shipping Podcast, to do online global community of contributors to the sector. As for myself, I promise to write here and there interesting stuff. And I believe that we should find, and there is some that I can think about, sexy personal stories from the industry, from the last decades, that will catch the international agenda.
And then we can have the next soapbox, because I need to explain to the maritime industry that maybe they should look upon their own marketing budget. Are they still paying for printed media advertising? How does that work for them? Compared to maybe doing it a little bit different. I'm speaking for my own self now. Mm-hmm. I know I understand that, but I do this on my own because, I have had some sponsors, but I think we need a platform. We need more people to pitch in a little bit, or to change their budget for marketing. To say, I'll stay with the printed media for a while, but I have to change also there.
I cannot accept more. If I saw technology manufacturers from the maritime sector publish in the maritime magazines, it cost us those amounts of money to read their views on the future development and the interesting opportunities. No one is reading this outside the industry. And all the innovation, also Tesla, that was a startup garage and today worth more than Ford, didn't came from inside the industry. It's not came from internal engineers in Detroit thinking about something new. It's come from outsider. Amazon come outsiders from the commerce as a whole. And there is no any reason to think that the maritime sector will be unique. The innovation, the disruptive technology will come from outsiders, from technology creative innovators that will challenge the current concept. And in order to make them aware to this sector, we have to go out and maybe to start from this modest place to call to the industry. Forget about publishing it in the legacy magazines and do it in the online platform. Invest this budget and in PR in The Economist and in Forbes and other, and to talk in a Google Developers Conference where you meet really true innovators.
Yeah, I agree. Sorry, I had 2 soapboxes and you brought them out, both of them. Who do you think I should meet the next? Who would you be interested in listening to in the podcast?
I'm not mentioning someone that you already talk with, and I will take advantage of the opportunity to offer someone very interesting from the Israeli maritime sector. Tzvi Schreiber, the CEO of Freightos, very interesting company. Eitan Buchman, the VP Marketing, is also a great guy to talk with. They are backed by GE Venture Capital and more than $20 million last year, and they are tried to be the Expedia or the booking platform of the maritime world, and they are also very, very fascinating people to talk. And they are also outsiders from the industry that come to try to make it better.
Okay, thank you for those suggestions. I'll see what I can do. Thank you for taking the time, Nir.
Thank you, Lena. It was my pleasure.
Thank you, Nir. That was really interesting. And I got the opportunity to take out 2 of my soapboxes. I got a 3rd one, actually. Female guests. I'm sorry to report that I only got 43.6% female guests on the Shipping Podcast. But that is so many more than you usually see or listen to, because you can't really listen to any other podcast in the maritime industry than this one. But still, my goal is to be 50% women, 50% men. I promise you that there will be more women in front of my microphone when we move towards the end of the year and early next year. I do not interview the same people that everyone else is. The ones you read about in the magazines or in the trade papers. And there are 2 reasons for that. Maybe I have asked them and they have said, thank you, but no thank you. Not really realizing what kind of audience this shipping podcast is reaching. This podcast has been downloaded more than 150,000 times in more than 165 countries. So depending on the audience you are targeting, maybe they should rethink. But of course, it's their choice. The other reason is, do I need to interview the same people that everyone else is interviewing in our industry? My goal is to spread the word and raise the profile of the maritime industry. And usually the people who are invited and interviewed in our trade media are the same people. Let's face it. So I hope that I can contribute to giving also the women in the shipping industry a voice. Today I'm testing my new equipment. I bought a Zoom H6. That is going from H2 to H6. You can understand that H2 have 2 microphones. So that's how I've been conducting my interviews up until now. Now I got the opportunity to interview 6 people on this podcast. I've been asked to do some panels and also to have maybe 3 people in a conversation for you. And all these new ideas and things I want to do will happen after episode 100. Episode 100 will be released in December, and that will be a solo episode with me, speaking about what I have learned so far, and maybe answering the questions that I have put to all my 99 guests. Also, I'm thinking about maybe interviewing online, because in that way I could reach more guests that we want to listen to. but it's more demanding for the guests. They need to be a little bit tech savvy. And then it narrows down my choice of interview people. Or maybe this way of doing interviews, meeting people and sitting down in a room between four eyes. Maybe that is intimidating for others. I don't know. I'm testing. I'm doing new things. I have started a new podcast with my fellow podcaster, P.O. Arnes. And that podcast is about how to start a podcast. It's in Swedish, so I'm sorry you might not be able to listen to it. But that is where we test a lot of different things so that I can develop this shipping podcast into something more useful and more interesting for more people. I have to leave you now. The next guest is a female speaker. That episode will be released in 14 days. But for now, from me to you, over and out. Thank you for listening to the Shipping Podcast. Don't forget to tell everyone that you meet that there is a shipping podcast available and that they should download it and listen to the maritime professionals who are sharing their passion for the shipping industry.